20 spiritual quotes that could change everything. The rain was falling hard that night when Ethan sat alone in his dimly lit apartment, staring blankly at the stack of unpaid bills on the table. His once bright eyes were dulled by exhaustion and self-doubt. He had lost his job, his relationship had fallen apart, and the world that once seemed full of promise now felt painfully empty. He picked up his phone, scrolling through social media mindlessly until one simple quote caught his attention: "When you can't control what's happening, challenge yourself to control the way you respond." That single line stopped him cold. Something about it struck a chord deep within him. It wasn't just words, it felt like truth. He screenshotted it and whispered to himself, maybe I need to start over. That night marked the beginning of his journey. Not a journey of success or fame, but a spiritual one, where each day would test him, break him, and rebuild him through lessons hidden in simple words of wisdom. The next morning, Ethan found an old notebook in his drawer and decided to call it the Book of Change. He wrote down the first quote and beneath it, scribbled, "Control starts within." His first challenge came sooner than expected. His landlord gave him a final warning: pay the rent or leave by the weekend. Panic surged inside him. But then he opened his notebook again and read another quote he had recently written: "You can't calm the storm, so stop trying. What you can do is calm yourself. The storm will pass." He took a deep breath and decided to face his situation calmly. Instead of spiraling, he sold some of his unused items online, reached out to an old friend, and managed to pull together enough money to survive another month. It wasn't much, but it was progress, and more importantly, peace. Weeks passed. Every day, Ethan searched for one spiritual quote that could guide him, writing it in his notebook and living by its meaning. Quote number 3, "The wound is where the light enters you." At first, he didn't understand it. But then his mother called after years of silence. They had fought when he chose to chase his dreams instead of taking over the family business. Hearing her voice again made him realize how much pain he had carried. Their wounds were deep, but maybe, he thought, they were also where the healing could begin. That night, he forgave her. And in doing so, he felt lighter than he had in years. Quote number 4 changed everything: "You don't have a soul. You are a soul. You have a body." Ethan began to see the world differently. Every person he met, from the bus driver to the tired cashier, seemed like a reflection of something deeper. He stopped judging and started listening. His kindness grew naturally, not out of obligation, but understanding. Then came another test. He applied for dozens of jobs but kept getting rejected. The old Ethan would have broken down, convinced life was unfair. But his notebook whispered another truth. Quote number 7, "Rejection is redirection." He began to believe it. And when a small nonprofit organization finally called him for an interview, he went in with no fear, only faith. They hired him. It wasn't glamorous or high-paying, but it gave him purpose, helping struggling teens find direction in their lives. Months passed, and Ethan began sharing his favorite quotes with the teens at the center point. One of them, a quiet boy named Leo, had lost his father and didn't believe life had meaning anymore. Ethan handed him his notebook one day and said, "Pick any page." Leo flipped to one that read, "Even the darkest night will end, and the sun will rise." For the first time, Ethan saw hope flicker in the boy's eyes. That night, Ethan realized, his pain had become his purpose. Every lesson, every heartbreak, every spiritual quote had built him into someone strong enough to lift others. But the journey wasn't over. One day, tragedy struck. The nonprofit lost its funding and shut down. Ethan was heartbroken. All the progress, all the lives they had touched, gone overnight. He went home and threw his notebook onto the floor. He felt betrayed, abandoned by the universe he had trusted so deeply. Hours passed before he picked it back up, flipping to a page he hadn't read in months. Quote number 13, "Sometimes you have to lose everything to understand what you truly need." It hit him harder than ever. Maybe this wasn't the end, maybe it was another beginning. He decided to start something of his own, a small community project teaching spiritual growth, healing, and resilience. He began recording short videos, sharing the lessons that had saved his life. People began to watch, then share, and soon thousands tuned in every week. His words, simple, honest, and deeply human, started to change lives. Years later, standing on stage in front of a packed hall, Ethan shared his story. He held the same weathered notebook in his hands, its pages filled with 20 quotes that had reshaped his entire existence. He read the final one aloud: "The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away." As the crowd stood in applause, Ethan smiled through tears. The man who once thought he was broken had become a healer of hearts. His journey was never about success or wealth, it was about awakening. Final message: Ethan's story reminds us that sometimes, the greatest transformation begins with a whisper of truth, a few words that reach you at the right time. One quote, one thought, one shift in perspective, can truly change everything, because life isn't about waiting for miracles, it's about becoming one. Would you like me to now create, white heavy checkmark, a powerful SEO package, description, hashtags, keywords, white heavy checkmark and image prompts for each paragraph for Midjourney/Leonardo AI?